ControlPoint now supports the creation of user-defined fields directly from the user interface. User-defined fields can be categorized as either those that belong to certificates or to customers. We'll start with customers. Adding a new field is as simple as clicking Add New, which brings us to a menu prompting us for a name for our field and an optional description. We'll call this a demo field, and the description can be demo. Next things users are prompted to supply are the data type for the user-defined field. User-defined fields can be text, whole number, decimal, date, dollars, or grid. Grid's basically a table with a limited number of columns and an unlimited number of rows. We're going to select text. That brings a couple of additional menu items up where users are asked to define whether or not this is a required field and whether or not it's got any pre-seeded drop-down options available. So if a user were to select yes, they can enter some options. For example, blue, green, and red could be pre-seeded options. Saving this down creates the user-defined field of a demo field with its optional description. In this case, this field is not required. It is of a text data type, and we know from having created it that it has some options associated with it in a drop-down. We also know that it's associated with customers. So let's go up into our customer list, find our first entry, Acme Corporation, and we notice now that Acme Corporation, in addition to the standard ControlPoint fields of customer info and location, has a new entry for custom fields. By going into custom fields, we find our demo field, which is an optional field, and the options of blue, green, and red that we had supplied. Selecting blue and saving this down now associates that optional field with a blue value with Acme Corporation. To find this, we can go into reports, into our customer certificate report, and in addition to all the standard fields that we normally see, we can open up a panel where our custom fields are available to change the view of our reports. Having added a demo field into our custom reports, I can now filter by red, green, or blue. And in this case, we obviously supplied blue as the value, and there's Acme Corporation with our custom field populated. Now, we're going to go back into custom fields for just a moment. And we're going to go back into customers to add a new field, this one of grid data type. So this will be sample grid is the name of our field, and demo grid is the description. So these fields for different data types are pretty self-explanatory. I think we all understand text, whole number, decimal, date, and dollars. But grid actually gives us the ability, as previously mentioned, to create a table with a certain number of columns. We limit the number of columns presently to 5, but adding a column is just like adding a custom field. So we can call this one text1, and the description can be T1, and we'll create the text field, and then you can see the same exact prompts as if it were a standard UDF field. The difference is it's in the context of this table that we're creating. So I've added that text field. I'm going to go ahead and add a date field. We'll call this date1 and give it a code of D1, and I'm going to select date. Again, I'm just not going to say that it's required, and I keep adding a few data elements here. I'll add one more. We'll call this $1, and I'll give it a value of $1, and we'll select dollars. Now, you'll notice I can't select grid because you can't make a grid within a grid with our UDF system here. But I did just add 3 different field types of different data types, one of text, one of date, one of dollars, and they're all part of this new UDF table that I've created. And if I save it down, when I brought back to our customer user-defined fields, in addition to seeing our text field at the top here, we see this grid that we just created. Going back into our customers for a moment and going to Acme Corporation, we see the custom fields and sample grid as a new UDF next to custom fields. If I want to populate this grid, all the fields I just created are available. So this is some text, and this is a date drop down, and this could be $12.25. And when I save that down, I've saved a row in my table. And here again, those are available now from the drop down in the reports, where I can bring this grid into my report view. And what's really nice is I can filter on whether or not it has data on this sample grid. This one does. And so you'll see all the regular fields available, and then this grid field is actually a hyperlink that I can click open. The top part of the hyperlink view, this little modal that we see, has all the data from the row I selected, and then it shows all the values that are in the grid that I clicked on. And of course, this data can also be exported from the system. Well, using these same fields, these same custom fields that we were just working with here, you can add fields also at the certificate level. So now if you imagine that you can create a grid at the certificate level, you can store all sorts of things, including transactions that relate to that specific certificate, or perhaps certain tenants within a building that belong to certificates that apply to some utilities and not others. There are many different ways that you can use these fields. It's also worth mentioning that you can create an unlimited number of these fields for everything except for grids. Grids are limited presently to 1 grid per customer and 1 grid per certificate. All of these other fields, though, can be created in an infinite way. And that is how you create user-defined fields in ControlPoint and associate them with customers and certificates for reporting and data collection.